I provided all the information of my belief. I provided my proof of baptism here in Edmonton. I showed what churches I've gone to, Christian school growing up, Christian household. I provided that, and I told them that like a community, the church community isn't a building, it's the people. So that should be proof that I was part of it. And they sent me back a second rejection saying that it basically doesn't count. But the thing about this rejection was they sent me a short little blurb saying like we require more proof of your participation in the church, and then they said that well, basically they just copied and pasted something from something else, and you could see like there's even like a number 3, and then it goes on and writes all these things. There's like spelling errors, and it just kind of looks like what I brought to the table wasn't read through and like actually taken in account. So I got that rejection, and then 25 minutes later, our president of our school sent out an email with a video link, and I watched the video link, and basically he said, you have until October 25th to get vaccinated or you can't come to school. So I personally withdrew just because I just won't get it, and I just believe that's my Christian right not to get it.
I think it's an interesting argument that you have to prove your participation in a church to the same society that says, oh no, online church is perfectly good. You don't have to attend in person during the pandemic. And you've been doing that. You've been attending online, but that's not good enough now.
Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Sheila Gunn-Reid for Rebel News, and I'm here with James. He's a university student here in Edmonton at one of the major accredited schools. And he's got quite a story to tell because with the new vaccine passport program here in Alberta, it's been hitting university students hard, university students who, for whatever reason, object to forced inoculation. So, James, why don't you tell us your story? And then if you want, you can tell us why you don't want to be on the receiving end of the jab.
For sure. Basically, my story is, I'm a university student, and we got the notification that the jab was supposed to be mandated unless you could do a religious or medical exemption. I'm a Christian, so I believe it's part of my duty as a Christian to not get the jab. There's things in the vaccine that I just don't agree with, and that a lot of the Christian community doesn't agree with. So I reached out to JD Faraj, who's a pastor in Hawaii. I've been keeping up with like a lot of his sermons, and I've kind of gained that as my church that I've been following. And he's handed me a religious exemption with like my name on it and all the accredited stuff that I needed. I also did my own research, just showing them like, hey, these are the facts that I've done research on, and I would just like you guys to take a look at it and evaluate it. So I sent my religious exemption in with all my information, and it was declined. Basically, the university said that they need more proof that I was actually a member of the congregation, and a little bit more proof of my belief and my participation in the church. And as a Christian, I'm like, it's kind of an easy answer because you don't have to actually go to a physical building to be a part of a church. You can be a part of any church, doesn't matter where it is. That's the great thing about being a Christian. So I provided all the information of my belief. I provided my proof of baptism here in Edmonton. I showed what churches I've gone to, Christian school growing up, Christian household. I provided that, and I told them that like a community, the church community isn't a building, it's the people. So that should be proof that I was part of it. And they sent me back a second rejection saying that it basically doesn't count. But the thing about this rejection was they sent me a short little blurb saying like we require more proof of your participation in the church. And then they said that well, basically they just copied and pasted something from something else, and you could see like there's even like a number 3, and then it goes on and writes all these things. There's like spelling errors, and it just kind of looks like what I brought to the table wasn't read through and like actually taken in account. So I got that rejection, and then 25 minutes later, our president of our school sent out an email with a video link. And I watched the video link, and basically he said, you have until October 25th to get vaccinated or you can't come to school. So there were like some things like I looked into some links and it's like, oh, you can still do a religious exemption, but I'm like, well, I've tried that. I've showed you my proof, and it's just like they kind of just didn't want anything to do with it. So I personally withdrew just because like I just won't get it, and I just believe that's my Christian right not to get it. So yeah, that's the state I'm kind of in right now. I don't have school to go to, so.
And we're being careful with your last name and the school that you're going to, because once you get labeled as an anti-vaxxer in society, you are sort of labeled as like a grandma killer, that you don't care about your community. And I've even seen this from some parts of the Christian community, because what people on the outside might not understand is we're not a monolith. There are different faith traditions within the Christian community, but they will say that you are dangerous and you're not loving your neighbor.
Yeah, and they'd probably say that, but like I'm not anti-vax. Like I'm not. I think the science. I was actually studying environmental science and biology. I'm a big science guy. I think God's one of the biggest scientists of all. So I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just think that tests should be taken with more time and more care, and things should be researched, and everyone should do their research before they get it. And if people want to get it, like that's their choice. I fully respect that. I just don't think that it should be put onto like a healthy man like myself. So
I also don't think that people should be forced to undergo some sort of inquisition to prove their that their deeply held religious convictions are indeed their deeply held religious convictions. You shouldn't have to prove that to an outside party. But also, I think it's an interesting argument that you have to prove your participation in a church to the same society that says, oh no, online church is perfectly good. You don't have to attend in person during the pandemic. And you've been doing that. You've been attending online, but that's not good enough now.
yeah. And like I have no problem showing like my Christian belief. Like I'm very open with it. If people want to have a talk with it, I'm like, hey, let's talk. This gets me excited. So like when they ask for proof, I'm like, yeah, sure. Like I'll totally provide it. Maybe I'll be an example to someone there on the board. Maybe they'll read. Maybe they'll actually take a look and be like, hey, what this guy's saying makes some sense, and maybe I can lead another follower to Christ. And if I can do it that way, and that's what my journey takes me, hey, I'm happy with that. If it's a sacrifice that I don't go to school, but I lead 2 people to Christ, I think that's a win in my book. So,
you know, that was something you were saying to me off camera. You're not angry. You're not speaking out because you're angry. You made a choice. So why are you speaking out?
I'm just speaking out to just show like all the other students, like the young adults my age, that it's okay. I've put a lot of faith in God lately. I've been praying a lot just with him, and like sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith and trust God. And my leap of faith right now is that obviously going to school right now is not what he wants me to do. But I just want to like remind all the other students out there that you're not alone. There are probably thousands of us who are in the same boat. Yeah. And I just encourage you to lean on God, trust him, that he says, like, I know the path, I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. So I think that's something I've been listening to a lot and just trusting him. So I just encourage, keep trusting the Lord. He's got it. He's got the wheel. He's doing his thing right now. So, you know,
it's hard for me to believe that a university bureaucrat sat across from you and thought, no, this kid doesn't have a deeply held religious conviction. But at the end of the day, what does this mean for your career?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would love to continue my education. Science is like my passion. Animals are my passion. So I love God's green earth that he created. So right now I don't know. I'm honestly just in this spot where I'm going to trust God. I'm going to keep on praying. And when one door or one window gets shut or whatever, a door opens, whatever the saying is. Yeah. So that's what I'm trusting him right now with.
Now, the school is supposed to offer reasonable accommodation in lieu of proof of vaccination. Did you get any of that?
No, there was nothing that was offered. The 2 things that I saw was you get vaccinated, or you have a medical or religious exemption, and then you have to get a test. I wasn't sure how long it would take. But yeah, there was no like online portion available. I know other universities had offered that, but ours didn't. So I mean, it sucks because I was really enjoying the courses I was doing this year, so to just drop it just kind of sucks. But honestly, I don't know. I'm okay with it, I guess.
You're handling this a lot better than I would be. James, you did send your information to our legal team at Fight Vaccine Passports. I want to assure you they're taking a look at that if there's something that we can do for you, because we are taking strategic lawsuits all across the country to fight vaccine passports and hopefully liberate some students, some government workers, and the rest of us from these onerous proof of vaccination mandates. And I want to thank you for being brave enough to speak up. I know it's difficult because, again, you can be labeled as an anti-vaxxer. That can hurt your career. It can hurt your education prospects. But it sounds to me like you have your faith in God and you know what's right and what's wrong. And I guess that's the beauty of being a believer.
Yeah, absolutely. Like in the end, I know that like this world is only temporary and heaven is like the future and the end goal. So honestly, it's moments like this when like everything gets dark and you're just like, where do I go? You always got to remember that God's there. He's been there in the sun, in the dark. And like, this is the biggest time where you need to just put your faith in him and trust him. And right now I'm just loving that my relationship with God is growing a lot and my relationship with other people are growing because of my faith. So
again, I'm having a hard time believing that a university bureaucrat talked to you and said, no, that kid doesn't have a legitimately held religious belief. That's shocking to me. I sent an email to asking for clarification of their policy because it was so crazy that James would have to be subject to some sort of inquisition to prove to total strangers the veracity of his deeply held religious conviction. So I'll share with you the email. I said, I understand that the school cannot comment on the specifics of any student, so I'll keep my questions broad. Does honor religious exemptions to the vaccine mandate? If not, why not? If does honor religious exemptions, what is the procedure in place for students to have that exemption recognized by the school? And my third question, does the school interview students on the veracity or authenticity of their deeply held religious beliefs before honoring an exemption? If so, how is such a determination made? And by whom? If I do indeed hear back from the school, I promise that I will update the story, because if they are interviewing students about their deeply held religious convictions and then deciding that the students are just making it up, I don't know how a school can see into a student's heart. But if I do hear back, I promise I'll update the story and let you know. Again, James, I want to thank you for speaking out. If you at home have a problem with a vaccine mandate that's preventing you from working or going to school, reach out to us at Fight Vaccine Passports. Send your information there. We'll have our legal team take a look at it. You might be one of our strategic lawsuits in jurisdictions all across the country. And if you'd like to help fund our legal challenge to these vaccine passports, you can do that at that very same website, fightvaccinepassports.com. In Edmonton, for Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunreid. If the government's new vaccine passport mandate is preventing you from working or going to school, reach out to us at fightvaccinepassports.com. Tell us your story. You might be one of our strategic legal cases that we are taking in jurisdictions all across the country. And if you'd like to help fund our strategic legal challenges, please donate at that same website, fightvaccinepassports.com.